Men, the most overlooked source of information about the woman you're dating isn't what she tells you about herself. It's who she surrounds herself with. The old saying, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future," exists because it's psychologically accurate. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like and hype button, and drop a comment if you've ever ignored red flags in her friend group, only to discover later that her friends perfectly predicted the problems you eventually faced with her. Red flag 1. Her friends are all drama-focused and chaotic. When you meet her friend group and they're constantly dealing with drama, relationship chaos, friendship conflicts, work problems, family issues, always something going wrong that requires intense emotional processing. And she's deeply involved in managing, discussing, and being affected by their constant crises, you're seeing a preview of your future relationship dynamic. What this reveals? This reveals she's either attracted to drama, creates drama, or at minimum tolerates constant chaos as normal relationship dynamic. Women don't maintain close friendships with drama-filled people unless they're comfortable with or contribute to that energy. If all her friends are in constant crisis and she's in the middle of it, either she attracts dramatic people, she enables their drama, or she's dramatic herself and has found compatible friends. Notice how she talks about her friends' issues. If she seems exhausted by the drama but can't extract herself from it, she has poor boundaries and will bring that boundaryless dynamic into your relationship. If she seems energized by the drama and always in the middle of solving problems, she needs drama to feel important and will create it in your relationship when things are too calm. Either pattern predicts exhausting relationship. Watch whether the drama seems to follow her specifically. If she's the common denominator in multiple chaotic friendships, where she's always being called on to mediate, support through crises, or deal with emergencies, she either attracts or creates these dynamics. People with healthy boundaries don't end up as the emotional support center for multiple dramatic people. That role requires being comfortable with chaos. Why this matters? If she's comfortable in friendship dynamics filled with constant drama and crisis, she'll recreate that dynamic in your relationship. You'll either be constantly dealing with her friend's drama that affects your relationship, or she'll bring that same chaotic energy directly into your dynamic. Drama-filled friendships predict drama-filled romantic relationships because the person is comfortable with and possibly needs that level of intensity and chaos. Red flag 2. Her friends disrespect their partners. Openly. When her friends talk badly about their boyfriends or husbands in front of you, make jokes at their partner's expense, share private relationship information disrespectfully, or generally treat their partners as subjects to complain about rather than people they respect, and she laughs along or participates, you're seeing how she'll eventually talk about you to her friends. What this reveals? This reveals that her friend group's culture includes disrespecting partners, and she's either comfortable with or actively participates in this dynamic. Women maintain friendships with people who share their values around relationships. If her friends treat their partners disrespectfully, and she's okay with that, she either shares those values or tolerates disrespect, both of which predict how she'll treat you once the honeymoon phase ends. Notice whether she defends the absent partners or joins the criticism. If her friends are trashing their boyfriends and she says nothing or laughs along, she's complicit in the disrespect. If she joins in with her own complaints about you or past partners, she's an active participant. Either way, this friend group has normalized talking badly about partners, which means that's how you'll be discussed when you're not around. Watch how she responds if you're uncomfortable with this dynamic. If you express that hearing, her friends disrespect their partners, bothers you, and she dismisses your concern or defends it as normal, she doesn't see the problem with this behavior. She'll absolutely engage in the same disrespect toward you because it's normalized in her social circle, and she doesn't view it as wrong. Why this matters? The way her friends talk about their partners is the way she'll talk about you. Friend groups create norms around what's acceptable. If the norm in her friend group is complaining about and disrespecting partners, she'll participate in that norm. You'll be the subject of group text complaints, discussed disrespectfully in group settings, and treated as the problem whenever you don't meet expectations. Red flag 3, her friends are all single and anti-relationship. When all or most of her close friends are single, not by circumstance, but by choice or pattern, and they express negative attitudes about relationships, commitment, or men in general, and she seems to agree with or not challenge these perspectives, you're dating someone whose social circle actively works against relationship success. What this reveals? This reveals she's surrounded by influences that will undermine your relationship. Women who maintain close friendships exclusively with anti-relationship friends either share those views deep down or are heavily influenced by them. Friend groups exert enormous pressure on relationship decisions. If all her friends are single and negative about relationships, they'll consciously or unconsciously encourage her to find problems with you and the relationship. Notice how she positions herself within this dynamic. If she's the only one in a relationship and her friends make comments suggesting she's betraying them by being coupled, or if they encourage her to prioritize friend time over relationship time, or if they seem to resent your presence, her friend group views relationships as threat to their friendship. This creates constant tension where she has to choose between you and them. Watch whether her friend's advice about your relationship is constructive or destructive. If relationship issues come up and her friends encourage working through them, versus encouraging her to leave or suggesting you're not good enough, their influence becomes clear. Single friends with negative relationship views tend to give advice that protects their friend from vulnerability rather than advice that helps relationships succeed. Why this matters? Your relationship exists in social context. If her entire friend group is anti-relationship or investment in keeping her single, you're fighting against social pressure that constantly undermines your partnership. Her friends will magnify every problem, encourage her to see issues that aren't there, and make her feel like she's missing out by being committed. This external pressure predicts relationship failure because she's getting constant messages that she should leave. Red flag 4. Her friends have no boundaries with her. When her friends text her constantly expecting immediate responses, call at inappropriate times expecting her availability, make demands on her time without considering her schedule or commitments, show up unannounced, or generally treat her time and attention as always available to them, and she accommodates this without setting boundaries, you're seeing relationship dynamic that will invade your partnership. What this reveals? This reveals she has poor boundaries with friends and likely won't establish appropriate boundaries that protect your relationship. Women who let friends demand constant access and availability are showing they can't say no or set limits even when those demands are unreasonable. If she can't set boundaries with friends, she won't set boundaries that protect couple time, privacy, or appropriate separation between friendship and romantic relationship. Notice how she responds to friend demands during your time together. If you're on a date and her friends are texting expecting responses, calling expecting her to answer, or creating emergencies that require her attention, and she accommodates these interruptions, she's showing you that friend demands take precedence over relationship time. This pattern means you'll never have her full presence. Watch whether she seems stressed by the lack of boundaries or comfortable with it. If she expresses frustration about friends' constant demands but can't actually set limits, she lacks the skills to protect her own time and energy. If she seems fine with constant availability to friends, she believes that's what friendship requires and will maintain that dynamic even when it hurts your relationship. Why this matters? Relationships require boundaries that create protected space for the partnership. If her friends have unlimited access to her time, attention, and presence, your relationship never gets protected priority. You'll constantly deal with friend intrusions, uninterrupted time together, and her inability to say no to friend demands even when it affects you. This predicts relationship where you're always competing with her friends for her presence. Red flag. 5. Her friends enable bad behavior. When you observe her friends supporting, encouraging, or covering for questionable behavior, helping her lie, encouraging revenge on exes, supporting poor decisions, or generally acting as accomplices to behavior that's immature or harmful, and she participates in this dynamic with them, you're seeing a friend group that will enable and encourage her worst impulses toward you. What this reveals her friend group values loyalty over accountability. Women in friend groups that enable bad behavior aren't getting healthy feedback that helps them grow. They're getting reinforcement that whatever they do is justified. If her friends help her engage in questionable behavior and celebrate it, they'll absolutely support and encourage poor treatment of you when conflicts arise. Notice whether her friends provide accountability or just support. Healthy friendships include friends who gently call out problematic behavior. If her friends only validate her perspective and support her actions regardless of whether she's right, they're not helping her be better. They're enabling her to avoid growth. This means when she treats you poorly, her friends will reinforce that she was justified. Watch the stories she tells about past experiences with these friends. If the stories involve them helping her do things that seem immature, spiteful, or harmful, getting revenge on exes, lying to partners, going behind people's backs, the pattern shows this friend group operates without strong ethical framework. The behavior they've enabled in the past is behavior they'll enable toward you. Why this matters? When conflicts arise in your relationship, her friends will influence how she processes and responds to them. If her friends enable bad behavior rather than provide accountability, they'll encourage her worst impulses. They'll validate her if she wants to retaliate, support her if she's treating you unfairly, and help her justify behavior she should be examining. This creates dynamic where you're always fighting against friend group that makes problems worse. Red flag. 6. Her friends are financially irresponsible. When her friend group consistently makes poor financial decisions, living beyond their means, spending impulsively, having no savings, constantly dealing with money problems, or treating financial responsibility as something boring people worry about, and she seems to share or enable these attitudes, you're seeing preview of financial chaos that will affect your relationship. What this reveals? This reveals shared values around money, spending, and responsibility. Women don't maintain close friendships with people whose financial values completely contradict their own. If all her friends are financially irresponsible and she's comfortable in that dynamic, she either shares those values or is heavily influenced by spending norms in her friend group. Both predict financial problems in your relationship. Notice how she talks about money in context of her friendships. If the friend group culture involves expensive activities, trips, or lifestyle that require overspending, and she participates without seeming concerned about financial impact, she's normalized irresponsible spending. If she seems stressed about keeping up financially with friends but does it anyway, she prioritizes social belonging over financial sense. Watch whether financial decisions in the friend group are made maturely or impulsively. If the group frequently makes spontaneous expensive plans without consideration for budgets or consequences, and she participates, she's in friend group where impulse spending is normal and expected. This predicts she'll bring those same patterns into your relationship finances. Why this matters? Financial compatibility is critical for relationship success. If her friend group normalizes financial irresponsibility, and she's part of that culture, you'll face constant pressure to overspend to keep up with group activities, trips, and lifestyle. She'll make financial decisions influenced by what her friends are doing rather than what's responsible for your partnership. This predicts ongoing financial conflict and stress.